So, as you probably know, Persona 5X recently released globally. It's literally Persona Genshin Impact for better and worse. And as a renowned Genshin Impact hater, I'd say mainly worse. The first big problem Persona 5X and Genshin Impact share is that they're gacha games. Now, playing gacha games doesn't make you a bad person or anything like that. I personally played Fire Emblem Heroes for, 7 years, but they are inherently predatory and are deliberately designed around manipulating FOMO in order to encourage often underage people to gamble away real-life money in order to get a PNG or 3D model. Oh, and then they end of service and make all the money you spend in the game a total waste. Don't spend money on gacha games, seriously. I have plenty of other things to say about the faults both of these titles have baked into their DNA too, such as the way the gacha system breaks immersion, the awful overworld movement, and the fact that, quite frankly, they're absolutely not designed for you to play for 5 minutes on the bus and then put down, like mobile games should be. But Persona 5X being Genshin Impact isn't actually my main problem with the game. Or perhaps problems is more accurate. If you ignore the whole gacha game thing, Persona 5X has two main problems. First of all, if I am playing a gacha game based on a pre-existing franchise, I am doing it so I can get more content of my blorbos. I am not playing a game called Persona 5X for random ass OCs, and yet that is what 90% of this game's content is about. Like, holy hell, I do not care about these guys. If Persona had to have a gacha game, they could have embraced the premise and had AU versions or reimaginings of the main cast. Like, imagine if the game gave us Phantom Thief versions of Sojiro or Sai and the other confidants, Lackmask's interpretations of the Phantom Thieves, or heck, Persona 5 era versions of the investigation team and other past playable characters. I would actually feel compelled to summon then, whereas now that I've got Mikoto and Ann, I feel no compulsion to pick up anyone else. Perhaps I'd be a little bit less annoyed by that, however, if the game's OCs were actually good. Except, it's very hard for any of them to shine because of Persona 5X's second major fault, the one that this video's title is referencing. Specifically, that it's trying to be a Persona 5 game. When the story is not attempting to be Persona 5 2.0, it's not garbage. It's very clear from the jump that Persona 5X very much has its own unique themes. The first hour or so of the game focuses on the way the people around Tokyo are losing all hope, having their base desires stolen from them en masse by what quickly turns out to be a supernatural phenomenon. Wanda, the protagonist, is one of those people affected until he gets dragged into the cognitive world and reclaims his desire to live once a group of shadows almost murder him. Then the bloody subway slammer appears and it all goes to shit. So, to be clear, there is a phenomenon in Japan involving men aggressively bumping into women in crowded subways. I've got a link to the Wikipedia page in the video description that explains this in more detail. But the thing that Persona 5X fails to depict is that this bumping is often used as an excuse to molest someone, or otherwise intimidate women in a sexually coded manner, which is, most importantly, usually subtle so the perpetrator can't get called out for it. It is not bloody football tackling someone out in the open. The writing surrounding the main villain of the first arc, Kyuchi, is ham-fisted and veers hard into corny territory. He has none of Kamoshida's subtle menace, and portrays a genuinely serious issue in a way that makes it seem like one giant joke. Like, no wonder the Persona fanbase is spending more time clowning on this guy than they are talking about the actual game. Kyuchi is ridiculous, and the entire premise of its plotline is a poor recreation of the first arc of an infinitely superior game that already exists. Given that Persona 5X very much isn't about rebellion against society's rules either, phantom thievery and heart stealing feels excruciatingly tacked in, and absolutely not a natural next step for the story to take, given all of the emphasis on stolen desires equal bad Persona 5X sets up in its intro. If anything, the story feels primed to make the main cast a group of knight or cop-like characters who defend the emotionally vulnerable from out-of-control shadows that are causing the public to lose their desires. In other words, the exact opposite of Phantom Thieves. But that's not what we got. Instead, Wanda, Luther, Kyuchi, etc. are all harmed by being Joker, Morgana, and Kamoshida, but worse. Every commonality Persona 5X has to Persona 5 feels like a woefully shoehorned in inferior knockoff. And that's not surprising. Persona 5X's main developer is Blackwings, a Chinese company. And Persona 5, the game this game is theoretically based on, is not actually available in mainland China, which is very unsurprising because no shit, a country notorious for its censorship didn't release a game all about criticizing authority. And that is why Persona 5X never should have had the 5 to begin with. Because the developers literally cannot write a story without a fictional setting to blunt it that focuses on rebellion and breaking the status quo. Instead, the best they can do is make a version of Persona 5 with all of its bite removed. And that is why Persona 5X shines the most when it's not trying to be its predecessor. Because it can't be, and therefore shouldn't try to be. If the executives had just let this be Persona X, an original game with its own unique cognitive world and plot, where Igor was forced to let Wanda summon various Persona users from alternative universes to fill out his team since there literally wasn't enough people with desire left in his own world to make a full party, well, I think it would have been much better than the game we got. Because for all of my quibbles about its clunky controls, mediocre writing, and overdose of different in-game currencies, Persona 5X does have redeeming features. The visuals are great, particularly the animated cutscenes, which easily rival those from mainline games. The new songs are all bangers. And last but not least, while the exploration is clunky, the battles very much are not. If Persona 5X drew from the narratives it was based on, instead of just mirroring them clumsily, it could have been, dare I say it, good. For a gacha game, anyway. And from what I hear, it tries to do that eventually, but quite frankly, I think it's going to be too little, too late. Thank you for watching the video this far, and if you enjoyed my ramblings, like and subscribe. I've got plenty of Persona and non-Persona video ideas in my backlog, and there's a good chance you'll enjoy them too.